The Michigan Man Podcast, episode 196. The Wolverines are number 2 seeds in the Midwest as March Madness takes hold of WolverineNation. That and more on this week's show. This is the Michigan Man Podcast on GBMW Go Blue Michigan Wolverine for Wolverine fans from coast to coast. Go Blue and welcome to this week's show. I'm your host, Mike Fitzpatrick. Michigan is the number 2 seed in what has to be the toughest bracket in this year's NCAA Tournament. No one is arguing that point, the Midwest Regional. On Thursday at the Bradley Center in Milwaukee, the Wolverines will tip off against Wofford just after 7 p.m. and hopefully begin another run to the Final Four. On this week's Michigan Gameday segment, our guest is the radio play-by-play voice of the Wolverines, Matt Shepard. We'll take a quick look back at the Big Ten tourney and then look ahead to this week's first-round action. First, a few Wolverine news and notes. Coach Brady Hoke's Wolverines have 5 practices in the books, and the last 3 have been in pads. The team had their first scrimmage on Saturday, and Coach Hoke said Team 135 is a long way from ready for the coming season. At least there have been no injuries to report so far. Not much news either gets out of Fort Schembechler, so other than his weekly presser with the beat writers, there is nothing newsworthy to report today. Next week, I'm sneaking out of town for my own March break, but we'll still have a show posted. Even with March Madness all around us and the spring sports kicking into gear, most of my email is from fans with questions surrounding Michigan football, which is no surprise. So next week, my guest will be the closest thing we have to Michigan royalty, Shemy Schembechler, the son of legendary head coach Bo Schembechler. As always, Shemy is a straight shooter and will share his thoughts with us on spring practice, what Michigan must do to improve on last year's 7-6 record, and what he thinks of new offensive coordinator Doug Nussmeier, and many other thoughts. So don't miss next week's show with our special guest, Shemy Schembechler. Last year we hoped for a strong showing in the NCAA Tournament, and we got it. It was 3 weeks of riding the roller coaster of up and down games, nail-biting finishes, and finally, an appearance in the national championship game. Yes, we lost to Louisville, but I think all maize and blue faithful will agree it was a great ride. Are we in for another one this March? We'll find out starting Thursday when the number 2 seed Wolverines tip off in Milwaukee against number 15 seed Wofford. To help prime us for the beginning of March Madness, our guest on Michigan Gameday this week is the radio play-by-play voice of Wolverine basketball, Matt Shepard. He joins me next here on the Michigan Man Podcast on GBMW Go Blue Michigan Wolverine. Back with us on our Michigan Game Day segment this week is Michigan basketball radio play-by-play voice, Matt Shepard. Matt, thanks for being on with us.
Anytime, Mike. Good to talk to you again.
Well, I know it was, of course, a busy weekend for you, and our own version of Big Ten March Madness got started. And, of course, we found out last night where Michigan will be playing in Milwaukee as a number 2 seed this week. Before we do that, though, Matt, and talk about the tournament, if we could, let's take a quick look back at this past weekend's Big Ten tournament. Friday's win over Illinois, and then Saturday's over Ohio State. Tough games, but again displayed really the gritty character of this Michigan team in being able to execute and make big plays late, didn't it?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of different ways people look at it, Mike. I mean, some people want the pizzazz and the ability to blow teams out, and if you don't blow them out, then people feel like, you're not winning by the right margin. If you do blow them out, then there are a lot of people who would question whether a club that is constantly doing that can handle a game when it gets really tight in NCAA tournament play, which oftentimes happens. I think Michigan has proven this year in one-possession games down the stretch, winning 6 of the 8 that they've played in, that they know how to play down the stretch and they don't fall apart. Would they have liked to have shot better against Illinois? Absolutely. Would they have liked to have kept an early 16-point lead and stretched it against Ohio State? Yeah, but the bottom line is winning. There are no style points, so they got 2 wins out of the 3 that they desired. Michigan State was just the better team on Sunday. That's a fact.
Then came Sunday's matchup with the Spartans. It really didn't take long after, even though there was a hot start by Michigan, it didn't take that long to realize Michigan State really wanted this one, didn't it?
Yeah, they were focused. I give them a lot of credit. They hammered Michigan on the glass. The Wolverines with too many key turnovers. It seemed once they cut it to 10, they just couldn't quite get over the proverbial hump. They threw it away. They had a couple of chances in transition. They ended up turning it over, which is very unlike Michigan. And the Wolverines had a couple of plays, too, or more than a couple of shots that they generally make, and they weren't making them on Sunday against Michigan State. But the credit goes to the Spartans for what they were able to do and salvage a regular season that they don't feel like went their way, and they got the Big Ten Tournament Championship for the 4th time in their school's history.
Well, from the get-go, Matt, it looked like State wanted the ball in the post, in Payne's and Dawson's hands, which it really did set the tone for how they were going to attack all game long, didn't it?
Yeah, Michigan knew that that's what they wanted to do. The Wolverines also knew that they couldn't afford to get their big guys in foul trouble, and Jordan Morgan and John Horford did. Max Bielfeldt was no match for Adrian Payne and what the Spartans bring to the table inside. They're a physical presence. They didn't shoot the ball well from 3, but they shot it exceptionally well from 2. I think the Wolverines will tell you they're really disappointed at the fact that they didn't defend a little bit better. And I don't mean just face guarding or going out and getting somebody on the wing and closing out well. It's just too many times there were blow-bys, and guys are getting wide open jams, wide open layups, and you just can't afford that against good teams, and you sure can't afford it in tournament play.
Well, Michigan's field goal percentage, Matt, the worst we've seen since the Charlotte game, which was early in the year, of course. Sunday, virtually every shot contested. There were very few open looks against State. The Michigan State defense did what really very few teams have been able to do against Michigan, and completely took that perimeter game away, and that was the deciding factor, I think, in the game, that Michigan State defense. Would you agree?
Yeah, well, they're a really good defensive team anyway. I mean, they're best in the Big Ten at field goal percentage against, so you almost expect that. I thought Michigan had some clean looks. They just didn't make them. I thought they had to work harder. There's no question. They had to work harder for their shots and their points than Michigan State did. But that doesn't mean they didn't have some clean looks. I thought they had some clean looks. They just didn't bury them. Generally, Michigan, they're the number 1 shooting team in the Big Ten, 3-point shooting team in the Big Ten, free throw shooting team in the Big Ten. Generally, they're going to make those shots. But, they beat Illinois even though they shot terribly from the free throw line. They beat Ohio State, same thing, shot terribly from the free throw line. That's the way it's going to go in college basketball sometimes. Let's just hope it doesn't carry over into the NCAA tournament. Let's hope when Michigan gets those clean looks, sidestepping their way, shot faking and things of that nature, that they hit them against teams like Wofford and then either Texas or Arizona State and whoever it is they may meet in the Sweet 16.
Well, heading into the tournament this week, Matt, pretty basic. Michigan's hopes of advancing really are going to live and die on the perimeter game, aren't they?
Well, I don't know if it's live and die by it. I think they've proven this year that they can sneak inside the arc and they can attack it, and they dribble drive as well as anybody in the country, and then bounce pass, pocket passes to Morgan and Horford and so on and so forth. I think that's the beauty of this year's Michigan squad and really last year's team as well. But more than anything else, this year's Michigan team does a really good job of being able to beat you in a number of different ways. You just like things to be a little bit more consistent defensively. Michigan is a tough out for teams because they don't foul, they don't turn the ball over, and they're an excellent shooting team, and they spread you out in addition to having more than one weapon. What Michigan needs is those other guys to step forward. If Nick Stauskas is going to be as consistent as he's been all year long, 17.5 points per game, 49% shooting, among the best three-point shooters in the country, getting to the stripe a lot and hitting those free throws as well, then they need other guys to perform well. The reason Michigan has 25 wins is because they're getting that secondary and third, sometimes even the fourth scoring. You're getting Karis LeVert, you're getting Glenn Robinson, sometimes it's Derek Walton. those other options need to be more consistent for Michigan to advance like they did a year ago.
Well, Matt, Michigan, a 2 seed in the Midwest, opens Thursday in Milwaukee just after a 7 o'clock tip against a 15 seed in Wolford, and is 14-point favorites, if that means anything. These first-round games are always very scary, though, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. I mean, I just asked, Michigan just from a couple of years ago against Eastern Michigan, who was a really good Mid-American Conference squad. Let's see what Syracuse does with Western Michigan, who won the Mid-American Conference tournament. But, I don't know a whole lot about Wofford. I just remember a year ago going to the Palace and Michigan getting ready to take on South Dakota State, and they had a really good player, and they had some length, and they liked to play the same style as Michigan, and everybody was questioning whether the Wolverines would be able to get by the Jackrabbits, and if they did, then they would definitely meet their fate against VCU. So, the Wolverines won 7 straight games going into the game against Michigan State. They'd won like 12 of their previous 14 or something like that. I think they're in a pretty good place. I think they know what they need to do to be successful. I think running the gauntlet that's the Big Ten regular season, playing in the tournament against Puerto Rico, playing in Brooklyn, playing in Indianapolis, playing in these NBA arenas, and they'll be playing one in Milwaukee at the Bradley Center, has all benefited Michigan, and I think you'll see that come out next weekend.
Well, if we get by Wolford on Saturday, we get the winner of the Arizona State-Texas game. The Midwest bracket is really loaded up with good teams, isn't it, Matt?
Oh, yeah. When you got Duke as a 3 seed and you've got Louisville, the defending champion, as a 4 seed, that's difficult. When you have Kentucky as an 8 seed, that's not going to be easy for Wichita State. This is a really difficult bracket, I believe. I think any of the top 4 seeds can reach the Final Four, and that's what makes it appealing.
Well, most of us expected Michigan would be a number 2 or 3 seed in the tournament. And over the weekend, there was even speculation the Wolverines might be a 1 seed. Do you think if they had beaten Michigan State on Sunday, they might have moved up to a 1 seed?
No, I don't. First of all, I think the NCAA Selection Committee has a couple of brackets already set. I think once Virginia beat Duke, that was set. And I thought Virginia would be the 1 seed, and I think they deserve to be the 1 seed. I think what matters more to Michigan is the matchup and where they're playing. They're playing in Milwaukee. If they win 2 games in Milwaukee, they play in Indianapolis. That's really good for the Michigan fans. And I think being in the Midwest helps them a great deal. And I think because they're a 2 seed, they avoid that 1 seed until the very last opportunity. So I think it's a good situation for the Wolverines, despite how difficult the Midwest bracket is. I think the most difficult of all the 4 brackets.
Well, as we approach this weekend, the NCAA tournament, then, Matt, when you look at this team, despite the lack of what, most people would say is a real power inside game, would it surprise you if this team made a nice run in the tournament?
No, it wouldn't, because despite that lack of strength inside, Michigan still has the ability to do what many other teams would love to be able to do. Get to the free throw line and run. When you can transition, when you have good guard play, when you have multiple guys who can push the basketball, that is Glenn Robinson, Karis LeVert, Nick Stauskas, Derek Walton, Spike Albrecht, all those guys, if they grab the rebound, they don't have to outlet. They can push the tempo. A lot of teams would love to be able to do that. That means Michigan is multidimensional, and that's a scary team for any club to meet in the NCAA tournament. Like, it wasn't long ago, just a year ago, everyone was questioning Michigan as a 4 seed. Would they be able to get there? Could they be good enough to do it? This team has been tested time and time again. They've played in huge games. They've played in huge venues. They've played different style of teams as well. So I think all those things bode well for the Wolverines. They know what it takes. They know it's a one and done. And I know everybody realizes it this time of the year, but Michigan has felt that they've experienced it, so they're fine with it.
Well, Matt, 6 Big Ten teams in the tournament. Is that about right, or do you think maybe 7 would get in?
No, I think that's right. I didn't think Minnesota necessarily deserved to get in. I was happy that Nebraska got in. They're an 11 seed. I was happy for Iowa, and I think they should play in a play-in game because they have not played very well down the stretch. So I think the Big Ten should feel rather fortunate that teams like Nebraska and Iowa weren't overlooked.
Well, March Madness Big Ten style got off to a great start over the weekend, and fun continues this Thursday in Milwaukee. Michigan tips off just after 7 p.m. against Wofford, and I'm sure many of us will have the sound turned down so we can listen to Matt and Terry bring us all of the exciting action from Milwaukee on the Michigan Basketball Network. So, Terry, Matt, Thanks for joining us today, and we'll be tuned in this weekend and look forward to having you back on the show soon.
All right, Mike, anytime. Thanks for the time.
Along with March Madness, there is so much going on the Michigan athletic scene right now, and coming up next on Wolverine Quick Hits, I'll do my best to get you up to speed with all of the action. Here on the Michigan Man podcast on GBMW Go Blue, Michigan Wolverine. On Wolverine Quick Hits today, the 13th-ranked University of Michigan hockey team earned a 6-2 victory over top-ranked Minnesota in front of a sold-out crowd on senior night on Saturday at Yost Ice Arena. Senior forward Luke Moffett recorded 2 goals and an assist in his last appearance at Yost, and Andrew Kopp had a goal and an assist to lead the Michigan offense. Freshman forwards Tyler Motte and JT Comfer each had 2 assists, and freshman goaltender Zach Nagelvort made 25 saves in net. Michigan improved to 7-0-1 in their last 8 senior night contests and earned its first win over a number 1 ranked team at Yost Ice Arena since defeating number 1 North Dakota 4-3 in the 1998 NCAA West Regional to advance to the Frozen Four. The Wolverines will next be in action tomorrow night, Thursday night at Penn State as the Big Ten tournament gets underway. Actually, it's tomorrow afternoon at 2 p.m. Heading into the Big Ten tourney, the Wolverines sport a record of 18 wins against 12 losses and 4 ties. That's overall in the Big Ten 10-8-2. After going 18-13 in the regular season, the University of Michigan women's basketball team received a bid to the Women's National Invitation Tournament and will host Stony Brook 24-8 of the America East Conference this Friday at Chrysler Center. Tip time has yet to be announced. It is the 5th straight season that Michigan has qualified for postseason play, matching the longest streak in program history. U of M, which lost 90% of its scoring from a year ago, reached 18 wins for just the 10th time in program history and the 2nd straight season under head coach Kim Barnes-Arico. The Wolverines tied for 6th place in the Big Ten with an 8-8 record and had 4 players earn all Big Ten recognition, led by junior forward Saisha Gori's second team honors. Michigan is 7-5 all-time in the WNIT and made its longest tourney run in 2010 when the Wolverines made a semifinal appearance. So good luck in the Women's National Invitation Tournament to Coach Kim Barnes-Arico and the Lady Wolverines. The number 8 ranked University of Michigan softball team triumphed over the Iowa State Cyclones 6-4 on Sunday on the strength of 3 hits and 3 runs batted in by senior Nicole Sappingfield on the final day of the Class Act Federal Credit Classic held at Ulmer Stadium in Louisville, Kentucky. Michigan's next scheduled game with Louisville was canceled due to inclement weather. Sappingfield got the scoring started in the 3rd on a 2-out single. The senior swatted a base hit into left field, scoring Lindsay Doyle from 3rd, who reached on her first triple of the year. Sappingfield struck again in the 5th with a sharp grounder through the right side that scored Doyle. The senior tandem followed the script again in the 6th with another 2-out hit from Sappingfield. This time, Sappingfield lofted a single into left center that plated Doyle and sophomore Kelsey Susela. Susela had U of M's other RBI in the game on a pinch hit double in the 6th. The Maize and Blue is scheduled to play its first home game of the season today. We're taping on Tuesday, March 18th, and it looks like it will be a decent weather day, sunny and right around 40, as the Wolverines entertain Bowling Green at the Wilpon Complex, home of Alumni Stadium. The first pitch is scheduled for 4 p.m. So again, the Wolverines ranked number 8 heading into play today with a record of 19-6 overall. The University of Michigan baseball team scored 2 runs in the bottom of the 7th inning for a come-from-behind win over Kent State 3-2 on the final day of the College of Charleston tournament Sunday morning at Patriots Point in Charleston, South Carolina. Michigan struck first in the bottom of the 2nd inning with the help of its rookies. Freshman Jackson Lamb from Temperance, Michigan, Bedford High School, led off with a single through the left side. He stole second, moved to third on freshman Ramsey Romano's ground out, and scored on freshman Harrison Winson's sacrifice fly to left. Fifth-year senior Ben Ballantyne earned his 2nd win of the season, striking out 6 and allowing 4 hits and 2 runs in 7 innings of work. Cronenworth picked up his 4th save, striking out a pair and inducing 2 groundouts in the 9th after a double opened the inning. Michigan opens Big Ten play this Friday at Indiana. First pitch at Bart Kaufman Field in Bloomington is scheduled for 4:05 p.m. Heading into the start of Big Ten play, as hard as it is to believe here in mid-March, the Wolverines 8 wins, 12 losses, and 1 tie. University of Michigan sophomore Connor Yautsy and sophomore Rosso Bruni earned at-large bids to the NCAA Wrestling Championships when the 45 at-large selections and brackets were announced on Wednesday. The Wolverines will have 8 representatives at the NCAA Tournament. 5 Wolverines earned seeds at their respective weights, most notably freshman heavyweight Adam Kuhn from Fowlerville, Michigan, who will enter the NCAA Championships with the number 4 seed. Fifth-year senior Eric Grajales and freshman Dominic Abounder earned number 9 seeds at 149 and 184 pounds respectively. Senior Steve Dutton and fifth-year senior Dan Yates rounded out the Wolverines seeded wrestlers with number 13 seeds at 141 and 165 pounds respectively. The NCAA Championships are scheduled for Thursday through Saturday this week at the Chesapeake Energy Arena in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. The number 3 ranked University of Michigan men's gymnastics team collected a wire-to-wire win over the number 8 Penn State Nittany Lions on Friday at Cliff Keen Arena. 4 different Wolverines secured individual event titles, while U of M tallied a new season high on high bar with a 73.45 as the Wolverines remain undefeated on the season. U of M finishes up regular season competition this Saturday with senior night inside the site of the 2014 NCAA Championships, Chrysler Center, as the Wolverines play host to the UIC Flames. Meet time is slated for 7 p.m. Heading into this weekend's action, Michigan 18-0, 11-0 in the Big Ten, and again rated number 3 in the country. Senior Joanna Sampson tied for first in the all-around and won uneven bars and floor exercise, but the number 7 ranked University of Michigan women's gymnastics team slipped to 3rd place in the first annual Big Ten Quad, held on Saturday inside Chrysler Center. Minnesota won the quad meet and clinched a share of the Big Ten regular season championship with Nebraska. The postseason officially begins this Saturday as Michigan heads to University Park to compete in the 2014 Big Ten Championships. The afternoon session will be televised on the Big Ten Network at noon. Lisa Byington will provide play-by-play, and former Olympian Shawn Johnson will also be on the call as an analyst. The Wolverines again 15-4 overall, 5-2 in the Big Ten. Now is the time to become a member here at GBMW. Visit www.gbmwolverine.com and sign up for free membership. It's a busy time all around Wolverine Nation, so make sure you know what's happening. You'll get an email reminder when a new story publishes, and you can visit our message board to read or take part in whatever Wolverine followers are talking about. Become a member today at www.gbmwolverine.com. Stay in the Wolverine loop this spring and summer. Our show app is now available in the iTunes Store, the Android Market Store at Amazon.com, and the Windows 8 App Store. You can also find us on 2 new and easy-to-use apps, TuneIn Radio or Stitcher Radio on Demand. So check out one of our apps and take the Michigan Man podcast with you wherever you go this spring and summer. You can also follow us on Twitter at The Michigan Man or on Facebook at The Michigan Man Podcast. As I mentioned at the top of the show, I'm sneaking out of town for my own spring break next week, so we won't have any news for you on the next show about what happened with the NCAA tournament this weekend. Hopefully we'll be making a run when I get back the next week, and we can talk Michigan hoops, and who knows, maybe even Final Four in the coming weeks. Let's keep our fingers crossed. Let's hope Coach John Beilein and the boys give us another March to remember. Even though I'm out of town next week, the show must go on. Aside from basketball, the other topic that consumes most of you listeners is what's happening during spring football. My guest next week will be Shemy Schembechler, the son of legendary head coach Bo Schembechler. Shemy has been an NFL scout for the last 15 years, although he's had a career switch recently, and he has some interesting thoughts on where the program is and what it needs to do in order to compete again for Big Ten championships. So I hope you'll join Shemy and I next week. That's it for this week. The best of luck to Coach John Beilein and our Wolverines this week in the first round of the NCAA Tournament. Have a wonderful Wolverine week, everyone. I'm your host, Mike Fitzpatrick. Until next time, take care, and as always, go blue. Thanks for listening to the Michigan Man podcast on GBMW Go Blue Michigan Wolverine. You can find us on the web at www.gbmwolverine.com. That's www.gbmwolverine.com. For audio posts or other fan feedback, please call our listener line at 313-263-4842. That's 313-263-4842. Email fan feedback to the Michigan Man Podcast at yahoo.com. That's the Michigan Man Podcast at yahoo.com. The Michigan Man Podcast on GBMW Go Blue Michigan Wolverine is produced at the studios of Robin Lynn Productions, Allen Park, Michigan. The Michigan Man Podcast is not affiliated with the University of Michigan. Go Blue.